What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. We've talked on the YouTube channel in the past about the Batman, the upcoming continuation, or I should say probably just the revamp and soft reboot, I guess you could say, of the Batman, the iconic character. But is it really a reboot? This is kind of a different take from the first trailer that we saw, guys, for the Batman. And what I gotta say, guys, is this looks like something pretty special. I mean, really, from the surface. Now, it's just a trailer. My reaction was that I am incredibly excited about this title. I was very skeptical about Robert Pattinson. I didn't know what I really thought about him playing as the Dark Knight. But after watching the trailer, I'm starting to get a little bit more. Obviously there's a ton of pressure on Robert Pattinson to nail this out of the park. And I gotta say, guys, I'm starting to feel like, okay, this is Batman here. And so obviously it's not Ben Affleck or any of the other, past, actors that took the job to go ahead and play as the Dark Knight. But I gotta say that I'm more willing now, after watching the trailer, to give Robert Pattinson a real chance here. And with that, guys, I want to talk about everything that we know now about the Batman. So let's get into it. In an article, guys, written by Georgina Torbett of Digital Trends, Robert Pattinson brings a dark, messy vision of Bruce Wayne to the Batman. Big news for Batman fans broke as DC shared a first trailer for the upcoming movie, The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson in the role. The trailer was shown at DC's online fandom event as part of the Batman panel with director Matt Reeves. From the looks of the trailer, the movie seems to be dark, grimy, and grim, with most of the introduction focusing on a brutal crime scene with scribbled taunts to Batman and blood splattered on the walls. Fans of Westworld will recognize Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon from his role as Bernard, and there are also short glimpses of other characters, including Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman and John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, Gotham's resident mob boss. Now, what I'll say is this, guys, very excited to see Jeffrey Wright play as Commissioner Gordon. I think that's going to be really interesting. I can't wait to see this vision from Matt Reeves. From watching the trailer, guys, Batman's always been a darker story, and that's really been DC as a whole. And I've stated this in the past, guys. One of the big reasons why I really kind of became more of a fan of DC was obviously because I was introduced to Batman. It was the first superhero I ever was, really introduced to from my parents. But also I just loved the darkness of the DC comics versus Marvel that's more, brighter and it has, even though there's dark elements to the Marvel universe without question, it just felt more of a kid-friendly type of universe versus DC that's always felt more mature. And I love that about DC. I actually really love that just about both of these, different universes because they're both different in their own ways. But the Batman, guys, feels very, it does feel dark, gritty. There's a real feel to it that obviously the Batman has a relationship with Commissioner Gordon right off the bat. You can kind of tell that he's more of a detective, it seems like, in this movie. And that's going to be an interesting concept. Much of the plot revealed in the trailer seems to revolve around the Riddler, played by Paul Dano, who in previous Batman stories has been portrayed most often as a goofy lover of mysteries who is desperate for Batman's attention. But the version of the Riddler in this movie looks to be considerably darker in tone, with him staging brutal murders and taunting Batman to figure out his identity. And so we get to the Riddler. So the Riddler, guys, I'm very excited to see this, character come back in the Batman universe in form of cinematically. Paul Dano, though, playing as the character, this was another one, guys, that I was not really on board with. The same thing with Robert Pattinson playing as, the Dark Knight, but then you also have Paul Dano playing the Riddler. I just didn't really feel that it connected. However, Matt Reeves obviously saw something there, and we now see what, the Batman is with Robert Pattinson's Batman. I'm pretty much on board with that. Let's kind of give it a chance. I'm willing now, more now than before, guys, to give Paul Dano a chance. Let's just put it that way after watching this trailer. Now, for the Batman himself, perhaps the biggest surprise of the trailer is not the new version of the classic dark Batman costume or the sweet turbocharged Batmobile, but Pattinson's take on Bruce Wayne. In contrast to Christian Bale's polished and charming playboy from the Dark Knight trilogy, this version of Wayne looks like a mess, unkempt and shaggy, and recalling that emo phase we all went through as teenagers. Other names we can expect to see in the movie include Colin Farrell as classic Batman villain the Penguin, Andy Serkis as Bruce's loyal butler Alfred Pennyworth, Peter Sarsgaard as Gotham District Attorney Gil Colson, and James Lawson as Gotham City Mayor candidate Bella Real. There have been rumors swirling around since the post-credit scene of Justice League that fan-favorite villain Deathstroke may make an appearance as well, but there's no confirmation of this so far. So, as far as the release date is concerned, guys, which we'll talk about here in a minute, I got to say, the cast is really stellar overall, guys. And a lot of the characters that I feel more confidence with, that being like Colin Farrell as the Penguin, I think he's going to knock that out of the park. I think Andy Serkis will do a really good job, even though it kind of felt to me, guys, that Andy Serkis should have been the one playing as the Riddler or as the Penguin. Some of these roles, I feel like they could have like shifted it around. But at the end of the day, I'm going to trust the vision of Matt Reeves because of his work that he's done in the past. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm looking forward to seeing, is the Batman going to tie into like Justice League, or is it going to tie into maybe the Dark Knight trilogy, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy in one way, shape, or form? Because I've always said this, guys, that DC, one of the biggest mistakes they did, in my personal opinion, is that they, the Dark Knight trilogy, when that came out from Christopher Nolan, I felt that at the very end of The Dark Knight Rises, they could have continued onwards, and really, I felt that, Batman Begins was the Iron Man of the DC cinematic universe. It could have really started the entire universe in a major way. They could have had a great head start against that of Marvel, but Marvel just kept on churning out great product, whereas DC was very inconsistent with what they were doing, and it just has felt like a mess at many points in time as far as the cinematic universe is concerned. This would be interesting to see this, either I believe, continuing what Christopher Nolan started in one way, shape, or form. If they want to kind of do a reboot once again of the DC cinematic universe, I would be on board with that as well. But I just feel that there's so much history that they've already established with Batman Begins, The Dark Knight Rises. Forget about Batman versus Superman. Forget about Justice League, even though we're going to, obviously begin the Snyder Cut, which I'm excited about it as well. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But there's so much here, guys, that DC had started that I think they understand now what they did right, wrong, and what they can do different moving forward. And I'm hoping that we see that here with this version of the Batman. I'm very excited about it, guys. The questions I had, like the Riddler being played by Paul Dano, and of course the Batman being played by Robert Pattinson, those were the two biggest question marks to me that I just was really concerned about. And now I'm starting to feel a little bit better, especially about Batman being played by Robert Pattinson. We'll have to kind of wait and see about the rest of these characters once we get further trailers. The movie had originally been slated for release next summer, but it had to be delayed due to the pandemic. The new release date is set for next year on October 1st, 2021. Now, I got to say this, guys, that when we talk about the pandemic, we have to look at, guys, that, October 1st, 2021, it was delayed, obviously, because of the pandemic, but you got to kind of take this date with like a pinch of salt because they're obviously not finished yet with this movie. They're going back into production. And so my thoughts are that, look, they're going to go ahead and they'll get this movie finished probably at some point, whether it's the end of this year or at some point, next year. This date, though, could very well change. And I would love for them to be able to stick with the October 1st, 2021. But don't be surprised if it goes to October or, somewhere else in 2022. But Anyways, guys, overall, I am very excited about this title, to say the least. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys think about all the characters and about the trailer at large. Let me know, and let's have a real conversation about it. With Far Cry 6 confirmed, and obviously with the speculation as well as just the hype really building, guys, within the community for this upcoming title, I wanted to talk and take this segment of the show to talk about Giancarlo Esposito's character and really talk about everything around, the villain, this new villain in the Far Cry universe. And so I wanted to talk about it, guys, and I'd love to get your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. So Giancarlo Esposito plays as Anton Castillo in Far Cry 6. And what I gotta say, guys, is I believe that this villain very well could be the most terrifying villain to date in the Far Cry universe. And obviously, guys, we've had some very iconic villains. One thing Ubisoft has done a great job of in the past is creating these very iconic villains. They've done an incredible job with that. And look, I gotta say, guys, that there's so much emphasis on the villains within the Far Cry universe that it almost takes away from your character that you're playing as throughout the course of these stories, which I think is okay because it's a different type, it's a different style, a different take on these types of games, guys, and I love that about the Far Cry series. Well, Anton seems like the type of character that is, kind of not so much, soft-spoken, but seems professional, very different from the other, from these other characters or villains that we've had in the past, and that's why I really like it. We have this, the Seed family in Far Cry 5. You've got, of course, Voss in Far Cry 3. You've got, Pagan Min in 4. I mean, you have all these different villains, right? But this one, that being Anton Castillo, could very well be the most terrifying that we've had up to this point, because a very soft-spoken but a very powerful dictator, to say the least, that just seems, and I think it's going to be played perfectly by Giancarlo Esposito, to say the least. This is a guy that, in my opinion, obviously, guys, we got to play the game first, right? But I think that just from watching the trailer, he definitely seems like he is the type of character that is, and villain within this universe, that gets whatever he wants, one way or another. And it's the way he has, the way with words. He has, obviously he takes real pride in the power that he's accumulated over time. And obviously he's mentoring his, his son Diego, which there's a huge rumor obviously going around, guys, that Diego is a young Voss, which would be a very interesting concept. It's hard to say whether or not that's actually true, simply because obviously in Far Cry 3, guys, they didn't have like the technology that we can see obviously in Far Cry 6, like Diego's playing with has a smartphone and such. And so that is, unless they introduce time machines and such in Far Cry 6, would be very interesting. I feel like they would, it's hard to say whether or not they're going to do that, but who knows? After coming off of Far Cry 5, I think anything is possible, to say the least, in the Far Cry universe. But that being said, Giancarlo Esposito, I think that this character, it's really going to bring something to the table in Far Cry that we haven't seen before. Number one is, guys, that our character is going to have a voice now, as far as, within this story. And that's going to be some differences, which is going to be great. But I think that the villain here, how they tie this into the rest of the Far Cry universe is going to be very interesting. And that's what I'm really excited about and excited to see. And what that all looks like is going to be, I think it's going to be something, guys. It's going to be something that could really be special moving into, the ending of Far Cry 6 into the future of this series. But I'll tell you one thing, Giancarlo Esposito, just by, those, of course, that trailer that we initially got for Far Cry 6, he's not going to go down without a fight, man. I mean, this is a guy that you can just tell is very much so established, and it's going to be a significant battle to kind of take him out of power. But with that, guys, Is Giancarlo Esposito's character within Far Cry 6, that being Anson Castillo, is this going to be the most terrifying villain to date in the Far Cry series? Or is he going to be, kind of, Voss? I think a lot of us can agree that he was probably the, most notorious of the villains in the Far Cry universe. I really liked the Seed family as a whole in Far Cry 5. I thought that they each had very interesting characteristics, which was an interesting take on it. But now we're going back from a number of people that are villains, a number of villains, to now just one main villain, maybe two if Diego ends up being a young Voss. A very interesting concept. But I would love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about it? Is he going to be the most terrifying villain in the Far Cry universe today? Let me know, and let's have a real conversation about it. And for more Far Cry 6 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. DC Fandom was a smash success in my personal opinion. I thought it was a great just event as a whole, guys, that we were all able to take in. And I love, these types of events that are now happening, guys, around some of our favorite franchises and universes and things of that nature. And DC is obviously one of those for myself. And with that, guys, one of the, announced titles that came out of DC Fandom was Gotham Knights, which is a really interesting concept. And I think it's something that kind of reminds me a little bit of Marvel's Avengers from a video game perspective. But I wanted to talk about everything that we know so far about Gotham Knights, and then we can kind of, I'll give you guys my opinions on it, and I would love to hear yours in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, in an article written by Marcelo Garcia of CBR, Warner Brothers Montreal has announced its next highly anticipated Batman title, Gotham Knights. And so, right off the bat, guys, what's interesting to me is that I've seen it called just Gotham Knights, which is what most people are calling it, but then there's others saying it's Batman Gotham Knights. So I'm not sure exactly what direction they're going at with that, but that's another conversation for another day. At its scheduled segment during DC Fandom, Warner Brothers Games Montreal has unveiled its latest title, Gotham Knights. The developers confirmed that the game will release in 2021, though it did not specify which platforms the game will release for. Along with the announcement, the studio has presented a trailer and plenty of gameplay for its upcoming release. Whether or not Gotham Knights is a direct sequel to Rocksteady's Arkham trilogy has yet to be determined, but the trailer seems to reference the Nightfall protocol and subsequent explosion that occurred at the end of Arkham Knight. Regardless of its relation, Bruce Wayne is seemingly dead and has left his final message to the Bat family along with a base of operations. In this message, he also references the passing of Barbara Gordon's father, Commissioner Gordon. So this is a really interesting take, guys. When I started watching this trailer, it's a really interesting take that Batman is dead. Bruce Wayne is dead at this point, which obviously we'll have to kind of wait and see. I have a hard time believing that he's actually going to be dead, especially like as the story progresses. But it's an interesting premise for what this game's going to be all about. And then of course you're taking on the Gotham Knights or the different playable characters, which we'll get to here in a sec. Now, in the wake of Bruce's passing, Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Robin Hood have banded together to take Batman's place as the new defenders of Gotham City. But terrifying threats still linger in the depths of Gotham. The trailer reveals the villains of the game, the Court of Owls, along with their menacing enforcers, the Talon. Warner Brothers Games assured fans that there is more to the mystery beyond just the ancient Gotham Syndicate, so players will have to eagerly wait for more details on the matter. As for gameplay, Gotham Knights seems to have gone in its own direction, with many mechanics that seem to separate it from the beloved Arkham series. For one, the snappy, free-flow combat Arkham was known for is nowhere to be found in the footage shown at Fandom. In the presentation, there was no combo counter, nor was there the same impact behind blows. Though not much was shown, it's notable that there were no enemies seen in a knockdown state. Rather, Batgirl is shown hitting them multiple times to whittle their health down. So, look, one thing that I'll say, guys, about this, just as a whole, when we look at, when you look at from the standpoint of the combat and the mechanics and things of that nature, sure, a lot of it was just cinematic, obviously. Now, what I'll say is, number one, graphically, it's pretty cool. I mean, I think the graphics are look pretty good for this game. I'll say that, I got my questions about it, obviously, but is this going to be like a play as a, as a service type of game, similar like the Marvel's Avengers? But I like the different characters that you're going to be able to play as, whether you're able to play with your friends. I'm hoping you're able to, or if you want to play by yourself, or if there's going to be like PvE elements, PvP elements. It would be really interesting to say the least. But what they're kind of building here between this game, obviously, with Suicide Squad, I really like the direction here because it's different. We all know the Batman story overall. We all know like some of these, different characters within the universe of Batman and even somewhat Suicide Squad, but you're learning even more about them. Like Suicide Squad, we've never been able to play those characters in a video game. The same can be said with some of these characters in Gotham Knights, and that's a really cool concept. It's just the concepts, guys, that are really interesting to me, and that's why I'm very intrigued to play it. Now, Gotham Knights appears to incorporate several RPG systems. For one, even basic enemies now have health bars, which are indicated above their heads as well a level. The player-controlled hero also has a level and gains experience points for taking down opponents. Attacks and abilities deal set damage numbers, which are displayed on screen every time an opponent is hit. So I do like that concept. I think that's pretty cool. Gotham Knights can be played in co-op, with the trailer showing multiple heroes working together. However, the constraints and mechanics of multiplayer have yet to be detailed. And obviously, guys, we're going to find out more as we get closer to the release. Despite these major differences, there are some gameplay elements that borrow heavily from the Arkham games. For one, gliding across Gotham looks familiar, with some admittedly added bells and whistles like Robin's ability to teleport. The grapple gun also seems to interact with ledges and vantage points in the same manner as it always has. Now, one thing that's interesting to me, guys, this kind of reminds me a little bit of Apex Legends, like some of the abilities and such. So kind of, it definitely takes things from different games, I believe, like Apex, obviously the Batman, games that were made by Rocksteady. Certainly, it's taking kudos from past games. It's also kind of taken some stuff from current games that are out there. While we didn't see much in terms of stealth gameplay, it's clear that it is back, and it looks mostly unchanged from the Arkham games. Heroes will be able to crouch and sneak up behind opponents in order to get the drop on them, as can be seen when Robin performs a standard silent takedown that functions just as it has in past iterations. Whether this mix of older mechanics and new innovations will carry the series to new heights has yet to be determined. Regardless, Gotham Knights appears to be a fresh and brave new take for Batman video games and is willing to offer a new experience rather than trying to simply copy and paste what came before it. And I 100% agree with that. I love the concept that they're not going to be complacent and just keep making Batman games and kind of just really try to milk that cash cow of Batman games. Like, I like that they are innovating, that they are continuing to evolve the story and all of that. There's going to be time to make more Batman games, and there's no debate about it. I think that this is a great way to set up the next generation of the DC, universe in gaming format. Between Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights, guys, I'm really excited about the future. I really am. I think that this could set up a Superman game. It could set up future Batman games. There is a lot of possibility here. A Justice League game, look, just take your time. That's what I've always said about DC when it comes to the cinematic universe. Take your time. When it comes to the video games, take your time. And we know Rocksteady has a great, reputation when it comes to the Batman series. Let's see what we got here, guys, when it comes to Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad. I gotta say, I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited about the DC universe when it comes to gaming format. But let me know, guys, in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about Gotham Knights? What are your thoughts? Let me know, and let's have a real conversation about it. And for more Gotham Knights content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. When Justice League was announced years ago, guys, I was incredibly excited because, look, I'm a massive DC fan, and I've always been a DC fan, more so than a Marvel fan. I've become very much so a huge fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and what they've done there is absolutely incredible. Can't take anything away from them. But I always loved Justice League, right? Just all these characters, read the comics and things of that nature, and what I will say is I was incredibly disappointed with the take that was Justice League. And I know that there was a lot of issues behind the scenes, the Justice Week because of Joss Whedon's take on it, and Zack Snyder, that whole tragedy that happened and the reasoning why he wasn't able to finish it, and things of that nature. Lots of people questioning, was there really a Snyder cut, and so on and so forth. But all I can say, guys, is that I was really excited to hear that there was, and it was true, and I believed it for sure, that there was a Snyder cut. What it was going to look like, we didn't know. But after seeing the Justice League Snyder cut trailer that came out at DC Fandom, I got to say, look, lots of CGI and things of that nature. Very Zack Snyder-esque. I mean, when you think of like 300 and some of the other movies that he's directed and such, very much so felt like one of his movies. But definitely, guys, looks to be, I mean, just from the trailer, looks like it's got to be better than what the final product we got that was Justice League. And what I'll say is it's going to be a 4-part, series, or kind of 4-part breakdown on HBO Max that's going to be coming out next year. And there's a lot I'm excited about here with this Justice League Snyder cut. I mean, even just the fact that we're getting a bunch of never before seen footage, the fact that it's a 4-part, it's going to be a 4-hour movie, so that means there's a ton of footage in there, guys. That makes me really excited. It really does. I'm really excited just to see what this take on Justice League is. And I'm hoping, guys, that we get another take on it at some point or another. Who knows? Maybe Matt Reeves really sets the DC cinematic universe in a great direction, following with Wonder Woman and what's being, with Patty Jenkins and what she's doing with Wonder Woman. And maybe, just maybe, guys, we can get another Justice League down the road. I just think, and I've said this many times, that DC needed to take their time and build the universe. They should have continued right off of Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. They did not do that, and it felt like they kind of just jumped right in, doing Batman versus Superman and then doing, obviously Justice League. I mean, obviously they've done like Man of Steel and things of that nature, but just overall felt so rushed to get us to Justice League. Whereas when you look on the flip side of Marvel, how they built their universe over time, starting with Iron Man, going all the way through, Avengers Endgame, and then moving onwards to the next phase. They should have done something similar. DC should have taken a page out of the Marvel book of what they were doing from a cinematic perspective. With that, guys, I want to talk about, like I said, Justice League and the Snyder Cut and everything that we know so far about it, and we can have a real conversation about it. So let's get right into it, guys. In an article written by Samuel Roberts of Tech Radar, from new footage to bad CG aliens. This weekend, Zack Snyder revealed the first trailer of his new Justice League cut, which is coming to the HBO Max streaming service in 2021. It's unclear how Zack Snyder's Justice League will release in countries without the streamer, like the UK, but Snyder promised a distribution plan is in the works that'll let everyone see it. So the trailer pretty much gave Snyder fans what they wanted, scenes that were once teased for the 2017 movie but ended up on the cutting room floor, as well as confirmed appearances of characters that were eventually sliced out of the film. Generally, I predict the Snyder version of Justice League will end up being better than the muddled 2017 film, even if I'm fairly confident that it'll provoke a divisive reaction in the same way his other DC Comics adaptations have. I agree with this 100%. I do think it's going to be more popular. I think that people will like it more. But I will say this, guys. I haven't said this here on the YouTube channel, but I will say this. Zack Snyder is not that guy when it comes to comics, in my personal opinion. I believe that he is very good at making specific style movies. I loved 300, guys. I thought 300 was great. The slow-mo, he loves doing the slow-mo cam and all of those things. He does a great job with movies like that. But when we get to the superhero stuff, look, I believe he did Man of Steel, which I thought was good. But Batman versus Superman, and that was not what I envisioned. I did not like that. It seemed like it was going to be this massive fight in Batman versus Superman between the two characters, and it ended up being like a 3 to 5 minute fight, and it just felt like so much buildup and such a letdown. In my opinion, was Batman versus Superman. I thought they could have done such a better job with it. I'm not saying that Snyder's a bad director. I just don't think he's the guy to do these, massive, stories that are, in like superhero stories. He's not like the Russo brothers when they came in and did like Captain America Civil War, and, they, of course, did the Avengers Endgame and in Infinity War. I'm not saying that Zack Snyder, like I said, don't take this that I'm saying that he's a bad director, because I don't think he's a bad director. I just don't think he's the guy that should be doing these massive, movies like this, like a movie that these spectacle movies that, us as fans are really looking forward to. They need to be dealt with in a very precise way, not kind of like in these, action sequences, which all in all, guys, I feel like Zack Snyder should no longer do, these types of movies. And now the same thing can be said for other directors out there as well. And like I said, I just want to see some other guys get a chance to see what their vision is. Like Matt Reeves with the Batman. I can't wait to see his version and vision for it, because who knows, guys, he could be the guy who does the next Justice League. We don't know. But the thing is that we really got to have like a sample size of what these directors have done in the past, but also what they do with these DC comic characters. And I feel like Zack Snyder should not have been given the green light to do Justice League after what we saw with Batman vs. Superman. And that's just my opinion. Now, the never-before-seen footage. The coolest part of the trailer is seeing scenes that were never in the finished film. Despite being teased by promotional materials ahead of its release, the novelty value of getting more Batfleck and Ezra Miller's Flash is high, and these extra parts of the movie are the reason people wanted this cut to begin with. If the Snyder version of the movie is 4 hours long and the original theatrical release is 120 minutes in length, with some of the reshoots that Snyder didn't direct, you're looking at minimum of 2 hours of Justice League you've never seen before. Now, Snyder refers to Cyborg as the heart of the film, and the trailer suggests we're going to see more of Victor Stone's life as a football star before he becomes the superhero. And that's something I'm excited about, guys. I want to learn more about Cyborg. And this is a reason why I wish we would have gotten a solo Cyborg movie, the solo Batman movie with Ben Affleck, and we already had Man of Steel, but, obviously, I just wanted them to build this thing more before releasing Justice League. We didn't get that, and I'm excited, though, to learn more about Cyborg, to say the least. Now, I would personally prefer to enjoy this film in a TV miniseries-like format rather than struggling through a 4-hour movie. Watching the Batman vs. Superman Ultimate Edition was already fairly exhausting, even though it's a superior version of the movie, which I have not seen, guys. So, take that with a grain of salt as well. I have only seen the theatrical version of Batman vs. Superman. I will watch the Ultimate Edition at some point or another. Maybe it'll change my perspective on Batman vs. Superman, but from the theatrical version, it just didn't cut it for me. Even though it's a superior version of the movie, it's not an experience I repeat too frequently, given that it's 3 hours long. Thankfully, for fans who want that marathon experience, the film will be offered in a more traditional, complete format once it's finished releasing, if you got the patience to enjoy it all in a single sitting. My guess is that the episodic structure is as much about HBO Max wanting to create hype over a longer period as it is about the practicalities of watching a 4-hour film. And I agree with that 100%. I mean, obviously, they want to have like some of these original products on HBO Max, and I think it's a great way that they can do it by having Justice League as a 4-part. I mean, I think it's great. I think moving forward, man, you should be, if you're going to have like ultimate editions and different cuts to movies, having them like this kind of style, these big spectacle movies, it might be the way to go. We'll have to kind of wait and see, guys. Iris West is in Snyder's cut. The original Justice League cut kept a scene between Barry Allen and his imprisoned father, played by Billy Crudup, but deleted his encounter with future love interest Iris West. It's great to see this cutscene added again, especially ahead of the Flash movie coming in 2022. Ezra Miller's Flash was one of the release movie's best parts. Why not give the hero a little romance? And I agree. I think the scene, just by watching it, even though it was very, very quick, guys, just a snippet in the trailer, it looks like a pretty epic scene. So, and it kind of, I think that's great to see like that love interest happen. There's a scene I really liked at the start of this Justice League trailer between Clark Kent and Lois Lane that criminally got sliced from the finished cut. It was a delicate bit of relationship building that the finished film was lacking. Based on the new Snyder Cut trailer, this seems to have found its way back into his version of the movie. Generally speaking, there wasn't enough of Henry Cavill in the 2017 Justice League either, considering that the entire series of these movies was originally built around him. And I agree. We need more Superman, man. More Superman, more Batman, more Flash. I mean, we want to see more of these characters, and that's why I felt like they each needed their own solo movies building up to Justice League. Using Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah in the teaser was embarrassingly cheesy, both for recalling the ludicrous Night Owl Silk Spectre from Snyder's otherwise good 2009 Watchmen adaptation, and for overstating how exciting the idea of watching a new version of an old, bad superhero film really is. And I will give him this. I'll give Snyder this. Watchmen was a good movie. It was pretty good. I mean, I will say that. I'll give him that, that I did like Zack Snyder's Watchmen. I liked his 300 take. I thought 300 was his best by far, but Watchmen was certainly a decent adaptation in my opinion. It was probably just early effects work, but the opening shot of the villain, Darkseid, looked poor to me. If Snyder's fanbase is going to make such a big deal about the DC villain's inclusion in this version of the movie, it'd be nice if he actually looked good. People already complain extensively about Steppenwolf, the CG monster villain from the original Justice League cut. And if Thanos demonstrate anything in the MCU, it's that getting this kind of character right requires both nuanced motives and high-quality visual effects work. And I agree. Look, some of this stuff still needs work, and I think that they're probably working on some of this still, guys. Potentially, maybe they're not. It's hard to say. Some of it does look somewhat cheesy, but some of it looks okay. I think some of the visual effects do look good. Others, not so much. But all in all, here's what I'll say, guys. I'm excited about this. The Snyder Cut already, to me, I'm sold on it actually potentially being better than the 2017 version of Justice League that we got. And being a 4-part series, 4 hours long, being able to watch it on HBO Max, I'm excited about it. Grab your popcorn, guys. This might actually be, it's something exciting. A real popcorn movie. I mean, Zack Snyder's movies are all about that. They're like these blockbuster types of films that have a lot of slow-mo cam and things of that nature. It should be interesting, and I'm excited to see it nonetheless, even though, obviously, we got that sour taste in our mouth from the 2017 Justice League. But with that, guys, let me know, what do you guys think about Justice League, the Snyder Cut, coming out, obviously in 2021 on HBO Max. What do you guys think about it? What are you excited about? What are you kind of skeptical about? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more Justice League, the Snyder Cut content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.